Friends. Hello and welcome to episode 219 of First Geek 411. I'm your host this week, Chris Nicolay, and joining me to the north, Shaneen,
Hi, hi.
for the second time. Whole new thing going on here. And from the southwest, Emma.
Hi. West Coast, Best Coast.
It's true though,
It is.
except for the fall.
I disagree with you there. I think Seattle in the fall is quite pleasant.
It's fine. I mean, it's good. It's a good fall, but I mean, like, what is the East Coast known for?
Pretty trees.
In the
Fall.
exactly.
Still doesn't qualify as the best coast though.
I didn't say it was the best. I said except
I
for
know.
in the fall.
I'm bringing it back around.
So you get the other 3 seasons, Emma.
For me, it's really
do
more
they
like
get
one
3
season.
seasons?
Yeah, I was gonna say. For me, it's more like one season.
Oh, that's touche. With varying daylight hours.
Yeah.
That's
and at most a 20-degree temperature difference. At most.
I go through that daily. It's just 20 degrees
Exactly.
swings.
That's my point.
Never mind
20
sleeping
degrees
hours.
in one day versus an entire year.
I mean, 20 is like a very like that's not a swing at all here.
Yeah, that's nighttime, daytime.
Like that, it's like even in the summer, like you're looking at like at least a 30-degree swing. 60 to 90, 60 at night to 90 during the day. Like
Oh yeah,
it's pretty
Fahrenheit.
standard. Oh yeah, sorry.
I was like 30 seems extreme.
Canadians, man. No, I'm joking. It's a much well outside of weather. Metric is better, but what was I gonna do next? Oh. So obviously things are a little different. You are watching us a pre-recorded episode. If you're watching live on our Twitch, yeah, it's pre-recorded. Sorry guys, we won't be interacting much. But you may also be watching on our YouTube. But yeah, so some changes. But be sure to check us out on our socials. We are One Geek 41 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can join our Discord server to chat with us in the off time. Email us directly at 1stgeek411@gmail.com with any comments, concerns, or suggestions. You can also check out our website, onegeek411.com. That's the part I need to cut out. But yeah, you will be able to watch us on Mondays on Twitch at 6:45 Mountain Time. And we'll chat with you in chat while we watch together. I'll probably mute and just chat because I don't like listening to myself talk. Sometimes. I like talking. I don't like listening to myself talk. There you go. Be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you listen or watch, and check out our merchandise on our Redbubble store. Updated occasionally. With that, let's go ahead and jump into what have we been up to. Emma, take 2.
Take 2 of the part in which I say I have done very little of interest this week outside of schoolwork. The most interesting things I've done is sleep, yay, and play Fall Guys on Monday with Shaneen and Cameron and his very lovely wife, Deanna. So that was very fun. And I guess, I mean, I am giving the latest season of Doctor Who a second chance, and it's still as terrible as I remember it, almost entirely because I haven't finished it at all, and I am going to finish it out of necessity for the 60th, but I'm not going to like it. So that's the only other news update.
Strong feelings.
It's Chibnall. No one likes Chibnall. He's made poor decisions.
I know nothing.
That is all.
What about you, Shaneen?
I have been watching all of the Halloween movies. in anticipation of Halloween Ends, and I have now watched the first 6 of them. I have some favorites. I have some not so favorites. So far, I'm enjoying it.
Like the horror movies?
Yeah, I've never
Nice.
seen any of them before, so this is my first time.
For some reason, when I read it in notes, I saw Halloween Town. I'm like, is there really 6 of those?
No,
But dang,
I mean, I don't know.
I don't
There's
think
a lot of
it's very
Halloween
possible.
movies,
There's a
though.
lot of Halloween Town movies too.
I haven't seen any of those either, so I can't say. But
Oh well. Anything else?
and we've also been watching The Devil is a Part-Timer.
Just the first season, or
Yeah. It is ridiculous, and I kind of love it.
it is a lot of fun.
It's just silly.
I started the second season a while ago. I think the second season's done. I can't remember. I think it was a spring.
Forced to make ends meet flipping burgers at a fast food joint.
Yes. It's so good.
At the
What
same time,
is
it's not
this?
like forced. It's like he wants to. Like
He's very
That's what-
motivated.
yeah,
That's
he's
what
very
the
motivated,
synopsis
and it's
says
just
that
like
I am
he's just
reading,
like,
courtesy of Google.
and he's just like, dude, let me live this life. Like everything that happens is just like, I've got work. Get
Yep.
me out of this. And the second season
Pitiful.
gets a little more ridiculous, but
Yeah.
I
So
have mixed
far,
feelings about the
it's
second.
just fun, and I like it. Good old Mom LCL. Just making sure everyone eats healthy food and stuff.
Yep.
It's great. Yep.
Yeah, I was surprised they actually did a second season because I don't think it needed it, but it's a lot of fun. As for me, unless you have anything else,
Nope.
I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Go. As per my binge and burnout session, made it to level 38. I was like early 36 when I first started playing again, guys. Just throwing that out there.
Nice.
How long out was that? 4 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
Roughly. I think.
Yeah. Just putting it in context. How much Pokemon I've been playing. We finished our pool summer session. Which I nailed it. I went undefeated all summer in the semifinals and finals. I'm just bragging on myself a little bit here. Okay.
Congratulations.
And I've made the return to bowling
Yay!
with a 169 average. It's pretty bad. Actually, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but considering when I left, I was a 197. But yeah, tavern sports. That's what I do. And yeah, I think, yeah. And then obviously I've been watching Rings of Power, which is a big reason for this week's theme or this month's theme, which we will be talking about Tolkien and his works slash massive world. Yeah, I'm stoked. So yeah, so that's what we are talking. This is kind of just kind of an intro. I don't know, like the entire month would just be an intro. Like that's how deep his world goes. So I mean, we're just barely gonna scratch the surface in a month.
It's
But
not the Silmarillion of Tolkien podcasts.
Mm-mm.
and Silmarillion's not even that deep. We're not doing unfinished tales. Like
This is not the appendices.
the appendices, massive appendices of everything. And yeah, so yeah, in honor of the Rings of Power launching on Amazon. Um, I'm stoked, and we have our thoughts on that, but we'll talk about that when we're all together, hopefully, um, instead. But yeah, thank you, Shaneen, for coming up with some questions. Because, but I'm just gonna throw them out the window. So no, I'm just kidding.
It's
um,
fine.
You would.
I kind of. I mean, I'll take the first one. No, because that's actually like was like, oh, that's a great question. But what was everyone's introduction to Tolkien?
Lord of the Rings. I mean, I feel like obviously everyone knows Lord of the Rings. I might have talked about this before, but I actually didn't have any interaction with Lord of the Rings until high school. I think it was like freshman or sophomore year. Because like junior year it was Star Wars. We watched Star Wars. So like freshman or sophomore year, I watched the three with my friends. The three movies with my friends over some break and loved them.
So the
And then
movies were your introduction.
so
Just
the,
to
so
clarify.
the movies
Just to
were
clarify.
my introduction. But like everyone knows Lord of the Rings, so I had known of it before. So then we watched the movies, and then after that, I was like, "Hey, that's cool. I'm gonna read the books." Started reading the books. Haven't finished them. I read all of The Hobbit, all of the first book, and all of the second book, and I'm halfway through the third book right now because life happens. So it's been a while, and I technically haven't finished it, but I am attempting to finish Lord of the Rings. So I saw the movies first, and am now reading them.
I keep recommending it. If you need to, don't forget the most recent audiobook form was recorded by Andy Serkis.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and it's a lot of fun, especially the Hobbit one. I don't know. The Hobbit portions is so good. What about you, Shaneen?
I think I had been planning on reading them for a very long time and just like hadn't gotten to them yet because they are big and daunting. And then in grade 7 at a youth all-nighter event, they played all the movies. I ended up sleeping through most of them because I was very tired.
No.
And I remember being woken up by like screaming orcs, and that I do not recommend that. Um, just like opening your eyes and suddenly there's like an orc right here.
I mean, that sounds like
Some
how you
bad
get woken
time.
up at a sleepover
Fantastic
thing
Toy?
anyway, except for
I
it's
Yeah.
mean,
usually a
true.
snotty-nosed friend.
True. But yeah, so I saw some of the films there and then decided that I needed to actually read them so that I could properly watch them. So then I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Nice. Um, long-term watchers slash listeners will know I've told this story before. Um, I was introduced to Tolkien in the 5th grade. Um, one in anticipation of the first movie, and me being a kind of a big fantasy reader at the time. I don't know.
Nerd.
The school librarian recommended that I check out, even though it's obviously well above my reading level. Well, I read at a decent level at the time, but recommend I check out Lord of the Rings, and so I did. And then, so I read the first one in time for the movie to come out in 5th grade, and then was obsessed, so obsessed, and then read the next two before, within the next year, before the Two Towers released, and then yeah, been a Tolkien head ever since. So
That's
good.
what we call a good librarian.
It's true. I mean, it's the same
Just-
librarian that, like she like also introduced my entire class to Harry Potter. like once a week. Yeah, she'd read it. It's a chapter from the Sorcerer's Stone. And it's so good. And then yeah, yeah, she's great. I don't even remember her name though, unfortunately.
Mine got me into Percy Jackson.
I don't think Percy Jackson is around yet.
Right. That's my point.
For me. So yeah, I never got into Percy Jackson. But and that also led me in middle school, because I had read the middle school librarian recommended I check out Lord of the Rings. I was like, I've already read them. She's like, what? It's like,
Been
well,
there, done that.
you should check out C.S. Lewis then. It wasn't as impressive. Not gonna lie. Enjoyable though.
That's fair.
More enjoyable though, I should say, because it's a lot easier to read. Like when you're reading Lord of the Rings, it's more like you're studying. Right? Okay.
Can confirm. Locally confirming.
I guess yeah. So, what is your favorite Tolkien property? Granted, it's like all one property. I don't. This is a.
I mean, I really enjoyed the letters from Saint Nick.
Oh, that's true. Okay, touche. Okay,
Like,
that is a different property.
it was a very enjoyable read. Granted, it's more of a like a, you know,
It's like a
coffee
scrapbook
coffee table
with text.
kind of book in the grand scheme of things. But it's one of those coffee table books that can be enjoyable to read in one sitting if you do it. To an extent. But like I really enjoyed that. Granted, I also really enjoyed Lord of the Rings, so it can go either way. But I did just really enjoy the letters to Saint Nick, or from Saint Nick.
I really like that too, because it was just really cool insight to kind of his creative process in a sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a lot of fun. But I mean, The Lord of the Rings is always gonna have a special place. But I know, unless you want to clarify what you mean about for this question, Shaneen.
Just yeah, anything Tolkien related, book, movie, Tolkien thing.
I guess like one thing I always recommend, like if you're interested, is check out some of his essays on like fairy tales and stuff. I think those are a lot of fun. Um, One of my favorite things about Tolkien is he's anti-Disney.
I love that.
He
Honestly,
hated
that
Walt.
makes
He
so
hated Walt.
much sense.
Um,
Like, I believe it.
yeah, like he would absolutely refuse if Disney ever got a hold of any part of his works, like as an IP, like in
He
control.
predicted the
Oh, man.
Empire before the Empire existed.
True. But yeah, what about you, Shaneen?
I don't know. I think I just have so many good memories wrapped up in Lord of the Rings marathons that the movies just hold a very special place in my heart.
Understandable.
My friends and I in high school, I'm sure I've said this before, but our local, like, super old theater that's had been around for like 200 years or whatever, or 100 years, did like a Lord of the Rings marathon, and we did the Lord of the Rings drinking game, but with soda because we were all underage, and whoever had to use the bathroom first lost.
Good little Christians. No.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, that's one of my favorite associated memories.
Yeah. Peter Jackson did absolutely nail it. Although, have any of you watched like the early, like the late 70s or like
The
70s, the
animated
animated?
version. I haven't, but I've
Not.
been wanting to just because it looks so ridiculous.
It's like the technology they were using to develop that is fascinating. Um, like, and they're a lot of fun. So I recommend if you can find it. I think they're on YouTube, but check them out. Like yeah, I watched them in between the Two Towers and the Return of the King. So I was just consuming. I was like, I can't wait. I'm anxious. So, but yeah, it's definitely a unique animation, um, but yeah, like the company that made them put a lot of money in, and they ended up going under. Like, unfortunately, as a result of that project, I think.
Oh, they had John Hurt.
Yeah,
Wow. Interesting.
right.
Oh, and they
Okay.
had Anthony Daniels. That's cool.
So
Okay.
anyone,
Anyway,
yeah,
there's some cool people on this project. I don't know why it made the group go under.
I mean,
Who
it
knows?
just didn't see success outside of like, it's probably seeing more
Yeah.
success now since the Peter Jackson films.
Yeah.
Um, it was just, yeah, it was probably like Lord of the, it was probably more of an obscure title back then too.
Probably.
Um, so we'll give it like people that didn't have taste yet. It wasn't cool. People just didn't have taste yet. We'll just leave it at that. We remember what houses looked like in the 70s, okay? Yeah, but I guess like as we get into it, I'm just going. Yeah, I am just using all your questions, Shaneen. It's okay. Favorite Tolkien character?
Lord of the Rings. I'm a sucker for Aragorn.
How old is he
Oh,
in the movies?
wouldn't know.
I'm not gonna tell you the answer here
I
because
don't really
because
care.
I might
He's
be.
like,
No,
I
I'm
think
not.
he's like what 75 or something ridiculous like that.
So he's one of the Dunedain, so he can like despite his looks, he's
Yeah,
he's an
I
old
think he's
fella.
like whatever.
But the Dunedain live longer too.
I also really like the polar
They do
bear.
mention it. Okay, so they do mention it, but they get it wrong when they mention his age in the movie because like in the books he had just actually aged. Um, so there is a piece of trivia, but I am putting together a trivia show for us when we're all together, hopefully.
Noted.
So keep that in mind. It'll be fun. It'll be blessed.
I'm trying to hear it in my head right now. I can hear Aowen being like, surely you cannot be 80. But I can't remember what he says.
Right? Okay. Relive it. So Aragorn. It's a good solid choice. I love Rangers.
And the polar bear from Letters from Saint Nick.
Polar
Those
bear
are my two
is
favorite.
is the correct choice.
Yeah.
What about you, Shanine?
I mean, yes, Aragorn was also my favorite for a very long time because I was in love with him. Um,
Every tween teen girl was at the time.
well,
It was
50-50. It was
Legolas.
Aragorn or
It was between
Legolas.
him and Legolas.
I was an
Yeah.
Aragorn girl.
I'm pretty sure this is the original Porque no los dos.
But I think I adore Pippin. I freaking love him.
Darn it, Shanine.
There's so many good characters.
So
I
mad
mean,
at you
that's
right
the
now.
thing.
Why?
Because Pippin's mine.
Because he's lovely.
He is. Obviously, like, as a younger person when this was all coming, I hated Pippin. I'm just like, because Gandalf hated him. Or didn't really hate him, but he's just like, stop messing up. But
Get your
like
act together, Pippin.
now that I'm
Yeah.
older, I'm like, yeah, that's me. Pippin is like, and he does have an amazing story arc. Um,
Mm.
he's actually Frodo's cousin.
I think I knew that.
Yep. So in the books, Merry and Pippin don't join Frodo and Sam by accident.
Yeah.
They actually hatch a very elaborate plan to meet up with them.
Yeah.
And kind of
I remember that.
it's so I love that actually. Like I understand like that takes so much time to do in the movie. So I do like the accident. And yeah, lots of people are a big fan of Tom Bombadil if you have read the books. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. Pippin.
He's the like the forest wizard.
He he resides on the outskirts. He's not necessarily a wizard, but he 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 is the lord of like a forested area, or he has a domain. I don't know. Like his character is mysterious. Like it's great.
He's
But
like a
Am
cryptid.
I mixing him up with the guy from The Hobbit that was played by
Radagast, the Brown.
Yes, I'm mixing him up with that guy
So yeah, Radagast.
in my head.
Radagast was just one of the yeah. So like the wizards, as we call them, are Maya sent by the gods or demigods. I don't know how you want. It's
Wizards.
yeah, like
Wizards.
Yep, we just call them wizards, but they're Maya and or Maiar. I can't remember which one's plural. Maiar is plural, right? Yeah. Yeah. Also, Mary's awesome too. Yeah, I actually like those two more than Frodo and Sam. Not gonna lie, they're more relatable.
Also, yeah. Well, I mean, Sam though. I love Sam.
It's true. I mean, yeah, he's just Middle Earth sweetheart.
True.
Can't not like him, but it's just like, he's like the Captain America. Just like okay, Sam.
I don't know about that.
It's a little too pure-hearted, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
I will also say I'm a big fan of Gimli, at least in the movies. He just because he's the primary representation of dwarves we get, and I think it's nailed in the movies. And pretty much everything that we see now, like looking at the Hobbit, and like they have to go off of that work, and it's like perfect, and they always fall short, except for the dinner scene in the Hobbit. They nailed that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we unwittingly for book club this month, for anyone that doesn't know, we are reading the expanded slash retail, like pretty much a compilation of all the Beren and Luthien stories, from the Silmarillion, from Unfinished Tales, and with some interjections from Christopher, which is and this is ultimately I guess, yeah, a love story and actually Aragorn and Arwen's ancestors. Just throwing that out there. Um, and so we inadvertently named this month also Romance Month.
It fits,
Yep.
technically speaking.
Which I, when we do book club, Shaneen, I've got slides. Just throwing it out there. Um,
Excellent.
but so what is everyone's favorite Tolkien couple? I mean, there's not a lot of couples. I mean, it's a it's an epic story, an adventure. There's not a lot of time for romance.
I mean,
Let's say couple or duo. Got a lot of duos.
Lots of duos that in fanfic might be couples.
Yes.
We won't go down that road though.
no.
It's a dangerous route.
I felt like at the end, Sam and whoever it was he ended up marrying back in.
Rosie.
Road.
Yeah, I felt like that was a really sweet, like, obviously I haven't finished the books yet, but at least in the movies, it was a really sweet little, like, he helps save the planet, essentially, if you will, or, Middle Earth, and then Frodo goes off and essentially dies, if you will, and then he just goes and falls in love with the lady he's always been in love with, and they have a family, and I think it's really cute, and it's
How many children?
happily a lot. He just gets his happily ever after.
What did he do for a living?
A gardener. Well, he's a gardener in my head, Chris.
He's a gardener when we meet him. But
Again, I
when he
haven't
returns,
finished the books, so
what was Galadriel's gift?
I don't
Sam.
remember.
Okay. I'm throwing out questions. I'm not going to answer them here. Then you will have an advantage over Cameron, and that's not cool. Well, you kind of already do because you know the questions, but okay. They are sweet, yeah. What about you, Shaneen?
I mean, again, super partial to Aragorn and Arwen.
I mean, the book, like, it does, they get a lot of emphasis. I mean, so makes sense. And also, like, the art, Trent, like, doing with what they did with Arwen in the series, in the movies, good choice. Good choice. Um, for me, okay, for favorite duo is definitely Legolas and Gimli. Um, can't not be. They're just elves and dwarves, man. Mm. But yeah, I like Aragorn and Arwen are cool, and like the history of their like lineage and everything is ridiculous. I love that, and it also, but it all comes from this couple. Just throwing it out there. So we'll say Baron and Luthien because we're reading it. I guess it's ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know. Because D&D pretty much is completely inspired by Middle Earth. What race would you want to be part of? Shaneen, start us off.
Okay, I mean, obviously, as a teen, I super wanted to be an elf.
Who didn't?
Obviously, pretty dresses, graceful. cool. Just so cool.
Cool in combat, you know. Cool in and out of combat.
Now I am all about the hobbits. Like that is the life.
Same. As an adult, I would love to live the hobbit lifestyle and be able to survive off of food and food. And occasionally going outside.
Never mind, immortality sounds like a pain.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there. Like,
And when the most dramatic thing that happens in your life is gossip about your neighbor, that sounds so pleasant.
except for you have to really care about gossip. That's a pain. I hate gossip. I'd be Bagans for sure. Yeah, the more, as I get older, yeah, just living in a hole with cheese and vegetables.
And wine and
wine.
whatever else.
I mean, like, so now I'm also a little torn because I've noticed that the dwarves can also know how to party. But you live in a mountain, so that's a negative. But
Yeah.
I think I could do it. I think I could live with it just because they are a little more entertaining and adventurous without people grimacing at you. So I think I'd be a dwarf because they can eat and drink like the hobbits, but also just do what they want. So
Are there just like straight up normal humans in Middle Earth?
dwarfs? Oh,
Humans.
just humans? Yeah.
That was cool. That was just more out of curiosity than.
But then you have to pick a faction of humans.
Because, like, I mean, you have Aragorn, but is he considered, like, is whatever it is he is, like, human? Or.
He's part of the Dunedain, which is considered a lineage of human,
Okay.
but like kind of a reserved lineage because technically he does have elvish blood in him. But yeah, the Dunedain are kind of are unique in that sense, but they are considered human because they are mortal.
They just have considerably longer lifespans.
Yes.
Cool. That was a question just out of curiosity.
So
more
from
than anything.
Rohan or Gondor? Or neither.
Who are the horse people?
Rohan.
Rohan.
The Rohirrim.
I'm going with the horse people then.
I'm not surprised
Because
on that.
they have the horses.
Yes, also Rohan.
Same. I just mostly because I like Theoden a lot. Theoden as a king is so good. But Gondor has, well, I guess Gondor has a cool city, but also not built by man. So just throwing that out there. Technically, if you want to go like, we also have the Noldor, which I don't know. Are you guys all caught up on Rings of Power?
No. Haven't even started.
Okay, I'm not even gonna bother then.
It's been a busy week.
Just watch, because it's gonna be important later on in the month, Emma.
Yes, Chris.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess to our final question before we just randomly talk about random Tolkien things. How has Tolkien's writings impacted you? Or an impactful moment from one of Tolkien's writings? Or that was phrased weird, Shaneen.
Yes. It wasn't meant to be read like that.
I'm sorry. I was just glancing over. I thought I had it. I did not.
How has Tolkien's writings impacted you, or what is an impactful moment from one of Tolkien's writings?
Or okay, you put a slash on. I'm gonna read it as slash. I mean, like, obviously they've been a big part of my life for a very long time. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's so many moments. I mean, there's 3 ages worth of moments. But I don't know, like it um gave me a passion. I guess it instilled a lot of confidence in me as a kid because it was something I wasn't supposed to be reading, but I mastered reading it. Also, I will say it made reading the Bible a lot easier after that.
I'm sure.
um, I don't know, like there, for one person to have developed the diverse world that he did just blows my mind.
Let alone for it to be so unified in the grand scheme of things. Unified, and at least when it comes to things that reached the point of publication while he was alive, accessible.
Well, part of that is just because he kept reworking it.
Right.
It's like, oh, we need a new printing. I revised a lot.
Yeah.
Like it was
That's
literally
why I
written.
included the
Yeah.
while he was still alive,
It's literally written like a textbook as a result. Like, like it's literally like, oh well, there's a new edition out now, and we need you to get the new edition.
Yeah. Like in the grand scheme of things, like it's so, the world building is fantastic.
All this from a children's
Both
book.
in and out of Lord of the Rings. And there's so much of it, but Lord of the Rings doesn't feel inaccessible because there's so much of it. It's rather enhanced by it while still not being too overwhelming for whoever.
Yeah, and so it's like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings can stand alone.
Yeah.
And then everything else that exists there further just deepens the lore. But so it's accessible in the sense that you can read The Hobbit and be done. You can read Lord of the Rings and be done. But you can also keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And then never resurface.
This just becomes your entire personality.
Yeah, I think being interested in fantasy at all, it's very hard to not be impacted by Tolkien's work in some way. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the critical fantasy piece.
It is.
So many things pull from it, inspired by it. I mean, yeah.
And it for being such a unique storyline in the grand scheme of things, it's such a classic story. Like, because it was unique, but it wasn't so outlandish that it just got left behind. It became a classic because it had the right amount of being different. If that makes any sense.
I'm confused.
That's okay. That was really more of a random train of thought than anything else. I tend to do those on occasion.
Yeah. So good.
So good.
So, random fact. So, we are reading Baron Luthien. So, yeah, obviously. Luthien is engraved on his wife's tombstone.
The name or like a picture of.
The name.
Okay.
Because, yeah, inspired by her. Yep.
That's
I
cool.
also just like all the like real world stories that come from like from his life that become known like as you deep dive too. Like he lived a fascinating life. Also, his wife was. Did you guys watch the biopic?
Mm-mm.
I hate calling it biopics, but I know it's technically correct. I prefer biopic, but just to me it sounds better. Biopic. It sounds. I don't know. The unapproved biopic, I guess. Like it wasn't technically endorsed by the Tolkien estate, but I forget what it's called.
Isn't it just called Tolkien?
Yeah, it was just called Tolkien. Yep. I recommend it actually. Like I think they hit all the major notes of his life. Um, and I think they definitely do capture some personality there that I
He
can definitely.
fought in World War II, right?
Yes.
Did Lewis as well?
No.
Okay. Or World War One. My apologies.
Yes. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I have
It would have been World War One.
people throw
I'm
out
pretty
dates and I'm
sure.
like, sure, World War happened around there. Yeah, but one should be right actually.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, it was World War One. Yeah. Just figured I'd double check my dates and not be giving out false information on the internet.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. Although I think that movie lost money. Then again, it did come out at a very bad time. Kinda. No, things were mostly normal, but I mean, like those
Oh,
types of
in 2019.
yeah, early May spring of 2019 was the original release. Had a budget of $20 million, but I think it was also limited because I don't think it ever hit theaters here in Helena. Made $9 million in the box office. I'm sure it's made
Yeah.
more through streaming rights and things like that since then. I don't know. What
Yeah,
other
it
works
most definitely lost money.
besides The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings have you read?
Letters from Saint Nick. Obvi. And then that's it. I mean, I started the Silmarillion at one point in high school, but didn't finish it because I was too busy to. I checked it out from the library and it was too dense for me to focus on while also
Why do people
doing
keep
other
calling
things.
it dense? I don't get that.
Well, it was dense then in the sense of like there was too much to keep track of while also getting my associate's degree as a high schooler.
I suppose there is a lot to keep track of. But I mean,
I was taking college credits as a 17-year-old. So I just didn't finish it. But
I know Shaneen has, right?
I have, yeah. Eventually made my way through the whole thing.
Yeah, it does get a little rough in the middle, like because it's just like a lot of names, but
Yep.
lots of names, lots of lineages. It's That's why we got
Yeah.
slideshows for parenting. We got slides.
Spreadsheets and family trees and
Actually, yeah.
yeah,
Because
I
it's
know.
important. You need it.
I know. That's why I said that.
But I mean, like, people remember, memorize the lineages in the Old Testament. Like, why?
Yep. Because they can.
I'd rather remember elven lineages.
I've also read on fairy stories.
So, actually, one of my favorite things, just because it's just Tolkien kind of ranting. It's kind of like the early part of his relationship with C.S. Lewis, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think somewhere you can find the published letters between them.
Oh, I'm sure. That would be an entertaining read.
Because they're kind of competitive
Yeah,
with each other.
exactly.
They're friends, but they were.
It was a friendly competition.
I don't know. Do you guys have any fun Tolkien facts? Do
That he
you
was
point
friends
out?
with C.S. Lewis? I mean, technically speaking, I know like I've read more of C.S. Lewis than Tolkien, but no. You're the one full of facts.
I feel like book-wise I've read more C.S. Lewis, but page-wise it's probably
Yeah.
more Tolkien.
I mean, that's kind of a given the nature of the writing styles.
I think it's very interesting that Christopher Lee is old enough and, to have met Tolkien and also starred in the movies. That's kind of crazy.
That's just wild. Did he actually meet him? I assume he actually met him at some point. I would hope he did.
That I'm not actually sure about. I just know he's old enough to.
Their lives would have overlapped.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's what Google's for.
We need
Let's
more
confirm.
classically trained actors. They add so much.
He did meet him. That's crazy.
Man, he was a good actor.
That's like life full circle right there. Like, I would have died after filming Lord of the Rings if I was him. Just be like, my life's done.
Yeah. I would have loved to work on it. I've said this before, purely for how awesome and so cool that the practicals were.
You would have had to break all the union rules, though.
That assumes I would have been part of the union to begin with.
I mean, everyone on the film was part of the union, but
I know.
everyone loved the project. Like, they were willing to break the union, like what you would normally go
But,
against, like the union regulations for the project.
That's literally 99% of the film industry.
I mean, like, in general, but I mean, like Peter Jackson didn't ask them to. That's
They did
is a
it
big part
anyway.
of it. Like, they were just doing it. It's just
Like, literally, for a simple scene, they came up with intense, insane mechanics just to have a wizard and a hobbit at a table eating to get the right size proportions that moved the table with the camera I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's so cool.
I
It's
mean,
literally
Peter
this little,
Jackson in general did like really groundbreaking stuff, obviously through that, but he also did groundbreaking stuff in The Hobbit. Granted, The Hobbit just we don't talk about it. Um, focused too much on the wrong things for The Hobbit, I guess. Like The Hobbit was the first feature-length film to be completely done in 3D from start to finish, including the storyboards.
I believe it.
Yeah, like never mind the camera equipment costs.
Ugh.
2 red epics just at the time were just having to use 2 for every shot. But yeah, like they had like when they're drawing storyboards, they'd have, granted it's just the red blue form of 3D, but yeah, they would just draw the storyboard right next to each other, one red, one blue. It's really cool. Cool process. That which really made me excited for it, and then I'm like, the story's weird. At least going into the second one, like, first one was fine. Third one got weird.
Isn't that because
Just watch the fan cuts.
they turned like or not even 2 pages of a fight into a full-length movie for the third one?
It's a little longer than 2 pages, but yeah.
You know what I mean. Like,
it should not have been broken into 3 movies.
It should have been 2.
Should have been 1, honestly.
Or
maybe,
that.
Maybe 2. Maybe. But
2 at most.
Yeah, now we're just gonna complain about The Hobbit, guys. Okay, that's
great.
No, I'm just joking. We could probably be probably mostly done here in a bit, but no, like they Peter Jackson felt like, for one, that they needed a central villain. They didn't, which is why he created the White Orc. What's his name?
Who knows? Haven't seen it in a while.
And then like obviously, like, Tolkien's works aren't like, the females he does have are amazing, but in The Hobbit and throughout the Lord of the Rings, like the major works, they don't have a big part. So he decided to introduce a made up female character.
Oh yeah.
And
that was
then
weird.
Just use her as a plot device for a dwarf elf love romance. Yeah.
So he basically, to summarize that up, they created a character to fill a missing gap and then promptly used that character to fill the stereotype of the gap that was missing.
Yep. And it was a love triangle because don't forget Legolas was there.
So okay, intentions. Terrible execution.
For the best that you forgot about that. So like adding Legolas in, even though he's not mentioned, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
For
you can get away with that to an extent.
Because Legolas was a character that just happened to be made later on for Lord of the Rings. But it makes sense because, like, he's an elf. He's, like, based on an established history that Tolkien was going with, it makes sense that he would exist within the realm of Mirkwood because he's the Prince of Mirkwood. So, like, I understand that decision, but Toriel still boggles my mind. Hurts my brain. Music was really good in The Hobbit. Colbert was great in The Hobbit. His little cameo. That's one reason why I'm okay with The Hobbit for the most part. And I'll watch it because I'm waiting for that Colbert cameo. If anyone deserves it, it's him.
He's just a little villager person or whatever.
Yeah, he's in uh, Lake Town,
Yeah.
and he's a little kind of a rogue signal. He's like he's
Spy
part of the
person.
spy, like the signal
Network, yeah.
network. Yeah, yeah. So
Because
good.
he's a big Tolkien fan, isn't he?
He's huge. Yep. Big Tolkien
Yeah.
head. And he deserves it because he was a Tolkien fan before it was popular.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm watching that little clip. I would have never known that was Stephen Colbert had you not mentioned that.
It's such a small part. It's not a spike and roll or anything. It's just the eye patch.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So when you guys watch Lord of the Rings, do you point out, like, I know it's a big
The
TikTok
toe.
trend, the toe, but there's other really good ones too of things that happen behind the scenes, like there there's a part where Arwen stabs her legs with one of her daggers on the horse. You guys know
Oof.
that?
No.
Yeah, she's actually one of the people, and then like um Elijah Wood, um in when he's separating from the group, he stepped on glass in the river, um, cut up his feet, random injuries, and apparently Gandalf wasn't supposed to hit his head on the chandelier.
I knew that one. Because I like those, like, accidental
But they make so much
movements
sense.
that they end up using because it fits the scene and the character. Yeah, that makes sense,
Just like,
essentially.
oh,
Like in the Princess Diaries when she slips down the bleachers. That was an accident.
oh. Favorite moment from the movies.
I mean, I always liked when Mary and Pippin were around because they had fun scenes.
Just one.
From each movie. Just, if that makes it easier.
Anything with
No.
Treebeard.
Treebeard is one of my favorites. I will say one thing I wish so in the book. So the Rohirrim aren't familiar with tobacco. Granted, it's not called tobacco; it's pipeweed. Um,
Right.
in Middle Earth because tobacco was too much of a American term or modern English. Um, that Tolkien didn't want to use it. Or and like there's pieces of his works that still refer to it as tobacco, um, but yeah, it's still one of my favorite moments in the books is when Theoden and Gandalf ride up on Isengard and find Merry and Pippin um, enjoying their pipe tobacco, and it's from kind of it's Theoden's reaction and descriptions of them like being like dragons, and they're like, "What are they doing?"
Yeah.
Um, and that also is probably like why I like Theoden so much too, just that interaction. But yeah, the answer good.
I liked the whole imagery of these walking trees just in the middle of slash starting that fight because there's such a like a it's an image you don't really get in a lot of fantasy. Like you see a lot of these other humanoid creatures running into battle, but then you just have a bunch of giant trees going to attack a tower in the middle of nowhere. Like that's pretty cool.
I like in the movie that like they it's such a small piece, but like one of them gets lit on fire, and he goes
And
and
he
dunks his head.
sticks his
Yeah,
head in the
such a small detail in the two towers, but I crack up every
so
time.
minute, but it's like, yeah, that's logical.
I mean, it
I would
makes
do that
sense, but
too.
also
They put in the
like it's
time and the effort and the
like just
thought.
thinking about that one little piece is like have one get lit on fire and he puts himself out when like it's not something I would have thought about.
No.
No, I can only think of like sad moments right now. I'm like, what stands
They
out
are the
to
most
me?
impactful.
I'm like,
There are
oh,
impactful
all the
sad
sad
moments.
ones. Um, Pippin singing to Lord Denethor.
Mm.
Um, his song gets me every time.
Also, such a
Like
good
just
singer.
Yes.
so
Billy
good.
Boyd,
Yes.
like oh my god, like so after The Hobbit finished release, right?
Yeah, because he had the
He did the last goodbye.
he
He recorded
yeah,
the last goodbye.
yeah.
I bawled.
That I mean that's yeah. I'm a very general Lord of the Rings fan, and that one gets me.
That one gets me, and it's just because yeah, from his role, like his song, and so good. Oh, Denethor.
Because he was essentially in his 20s when he did Lord of the Rings, right? Like 20s, 30s. Like he was young, so that would have been life changing for him.
Yeah,
So like
I mean they were all the hobbits, well, except for Sean Astin.
yeah,
He was very established when he got his role, but like yeah, everyone else was mostly unknowns. Elijah, um, Dom, and Billy. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
which is ironic because Sam's supposed to be the youngest character of those four.
There you go.
Like he's I forget exactly. He's like 20 years younger than Frodo. Frodo's also supposed to be like 40. Something. When he departs on his journey.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Granted, you also have to take into consideration that the length of time between when Frodo gets the ring and when he leaves the Shire is considerably longer in the books than it is in the movies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a few days in the movies versus
Years.
Yep. Yeah, okay. Well, we will call it there, I guess. Before we go in too deep or before I start educating you on every little piece. We'll save that for later. So, thank you guys for listening. And I don't know. We're not saying goodbye to anyone actually right now, so that's weird to me. But wash your hands.
Drink some water.
Read a book.
Preferably one of Tolkien's right now. Just saying.
Yeah.